an effort to put pressure on Putin. Here to discuss this and much more, we have Michael Bociurkiw, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council. He is in Lviv, Ukraine. Also with us, Steve Hall, CNN National Security Analyst and former CIA Chief of Russia Operations. Gentlemen, great to see you. Michael, I just want to start with you because you're in Lviv. Anderson Cooper is reporting live there for us. We just heard that haunting sound of the sirens going off tonight there where you are. And I know that you've been in Ukraine for almost a month now. I have to assume that every day gets more tense. Are you planning to leave soon?
Yeah, well, good to be with you. Yeah, if I look anxious, that's the very reason why for the second time in 30 minutes, the sirens have gone off. They went off very early this morning. So the residents of Lviv, and don't forget there are also probably tens of thousands of displaced people here as well, aren't going to get much sleep right now. I am planning to stay. I mean, I want to do what I'm doing with you right now, telling the world what we're seeing. But Alisyn, I got to tell you, I mean, I stayed at a Ukrainian family's home last night, and we started the evening with, let's say, about 8 people. But early this morning, we were down to 7 because the 16-year-old son of the host, the mother, went to fight on the front lines. You can't even imagine what that person must feel like. But also, I think that these types of scenarios, gut-wrenching, are playing themselves out right across the country as people make decisions of what to do. But I have to tell you one more thing, and trust me, it makes me sick to my stomach just to think this, that to a twisted mind, Mr. Putin would see Lviv as a very big prize, because this is really the center of patriotism in Ukraine. This is where a lot of the dissidents who suffered in the Soviet Gulag came from. This is where a lot of the Ukrainian diaspora, including my own family, trace our roots to. So it's a beautiful, lovely city normally, but right now, definitely a city on edge.
Michael, I so appreciate you just bringing this to the very personal story, which it is for the millions of people there, obviously. And Steve, as the U.S. assesses that Putin is moving into a more lethal phase. And we've already seen that they are indiscriminately hitting civilian targets. They can say whatever they want. We've seen schools hit. We've seen apartment buildings hit. Is there any off-ramp at this point, any face-saving measure for Putin where this doesn't have to happen?
You know, Alisyn, I think Gary Kasparov put it well, which is that we perhaps ought not to be looking for off-ramps for Vladimir Putin. We should be looking at off-ramps for the Russian people. Of course, that implies it would be nice if they could get rid of Putin. And, you know, you were mentioning the sanctions earlier against the oligarchs. They're basically Putin's money launderers, so it's good that we're increasing pressure. But the group that I'm really looking at is the security military elites, the so-called siloviki. It's you know, we have a three-part government here in the United States. It's a little bit like that in Russia. You've got Putin, and you've got these security elites, and then you've got the oligarchs. And it's really this siloviki that could really take some significant action against Putin if the pressure inside of Russia got so bad. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Michael, Putin just made a statement in Moscow in which he said, quote, "I will never give up my belief that Russians and Ukrainians are one people, despite the fact that part of Ukrainians were threatened and tricked by the Nazi nationalistic propaganda." What's your response, and what does that tell you about his mindset?
It's sickening, and it's echoing what what his speech he gave before the violence began, of what he plans for Ukraine. I wouldn't have said this maybe 3 or 4 days ago, but now and many others I talk to here are beginning to think that he's after invasion of the entire country. And as one of your previous analysts said, he already looks like he's building that land bridge, that coveted land bridge between the Russian mainland and Crimea, so it doesn't starve to water and other supplies. But you will see, Alisyn, because of this, these types of statements, a big increase in the number of people leaving the country. Right now, we're up to about 1 million. That could go up to 5 million. I am heartened by the fact that my government, the Trudeau government, just a few hours ago announced a unlimited resettlement program for Ukrainians. They can come to Canada under eased rules and stay for a long time. And that's exactly what other countries like the United States need to do, because it doesn't look like, sadly, there's going to be a quick end to this. And just one more point, as was pointed out, a lot of women and children are getting caught in the crossfire. And I'm telling you things today that is very, very hard for me to say, because I was a spokesperson for UNICEF and other UN agencies. But it really hurts me, it angers me actually, that none of the UN agencies seem to be able to call out the aggressor, Russia, by name. These are agencies that are tasked with saving the lives, protecting women and children. And if they're not willing to criticize Russia or Mr. Putin by name, we have a big problem on our hands.
But Michael,
I don't remember this type of
But what
approach.
do you mean by that? How are they, using kid gloves with Russia and Putin?
So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was on the WHO press conference. The Director General was speaking. I was the first one up to ask a question. We did this virtually. And I said, why is it that, in my day, we were able to call out the Myanmar generals or warring sides and wherever they are in the world. And today, you can't seem to bring yourself to name Russia or Mr. Putin. They call them the warring sides. They use language like that. And the answer that was, well, we don't want to get involved in politics. But I think if big organizations like WHO or UNICEF aren't willing to call out Mr. Putin and Russia by name, who will? These are organizations which were formed to prevent the sort of conflict that is happening right now. And yet, as you say, they're approaching this with kid gloves. It has upset a lot of people who either work or have worked for the organization.
Yeah. Steve, very quickly, President Zelensky of Ukraine thinks that it's not just Ukraine, the entire country, that Putin wants. He's suggesting that Putin will be emboldened if he gets Ukraine and he'll go further. Do you think that's true?
Well, it's certainly something to be concerned about. I mean, remember how this started. We're just helping, Putin said, the Donbas region, which is, being under horrific attack by the Ukrainians, which is, of course, is a lie. So, now he's in all of Ukraine. That's clear. So after that, what's next? The Baltic states? I mean, we do have to think, OK, where are we actually going to stop Putin? And I agree with Michael. People have to stand up. Organizations, companies, governments have to stand up and call him out and say, look, this is it. Enough is enough. You're not going to go any further.
Michael Bociurkiw, please stay safe. We so appreciate you being there and really look forward to talking to you. Steve Hall, thank you very much for all your expertise as well.